Hey everybody, welcome to Journey with Jazz. Y'all, I have not been up here in almost 2 weeks. I'm tripping. I'm so sorry. You already know life is busy, life is crazy. I don't have to say that. But I love y'all and I love giving this time to y'all. So I said I'm going to do a video today. And my husband and I, our plans got switched around for the weekend. So it worked out that I had some extra time today before I go to school. So let's get it popping. This video is all about law school, all about my law school experience, some tips and tricks for those of you who want to go to law school or who already are in law school or are applying for law school. This is for you. I'm hitting a variety of topics, so I hope that this is helpful for you. This also is for people who are aspiring to do different careers, different businesses, brands, whatever it is. You can take something from this video, so just soak it all in. All right, let's jump right in. So if you see me looking down, it's because my little notebook is right here. And
yeah, I would love to memorize everything that I want to say, but I'm not putting that burden on myself. Trust me, I have enough to memorize on a daily basis, so I'm just gonna cut myself some slack.
Let's just jump right in. Let's talk about the cold call. If you are a law student, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The cold call is so interesting because it's almost like this big haunting thing that we feel like can completely annihilate us if we don't do it right, when that's not the case at all. Our life isn't over, our career isn't over if we aren't successful with the cold call. So as a 1L, 1L means first year law student. You come into class and you're just so nervous and you've heard about the cold call, but you just don't know. You don't know what it's about. You don't know how bad it really is. You don't know how to actually feel. The cold call is pretty much when a professor goes,
Mrs. Mullen, can you tell us the facts of the case?
And basically you have to stand up and in front of all of your classmates, you have to talk about, for example, Terry versus Ohio, and you have to say all the facts of the case. Then the professor is going to ask,
What was the issue with the case?
or they might ask,
What did the prior courts or the lower courts hold in this case?
and so off the top of your head, well, actually not off the top of your head because you briefed the case, and I'll talk about briefing cases in a second, but you're looking at your notes from your brief and you're saying, okay, the issue here is this. They're going to ask what the rule is. They're going to ask how the court, their analysis or how they applied the rules, and then they're going to ask what the holding of the case was. On a good day, that's all they ask, but typically that's not all they ask, especially when you get to your second year, your third year. They start getting more analytical and they say, how's this case distinguished from this case, which is another case that we've read in the class. Or they'll say, how's this case distinguished from the court's other decisions? Or they'll say, do you feel like the lower court was justified in their decision? So, you know, it's not just the issue, the rule, the application of the rule in the conclusion, but it's also getting you to think outside the box in other areas. So when they do the cold call, typically they're asking IRAC, issue, rule, application, conclusion. But like I said, you don't know what they're going to ask you, and you're in front of all of your classmates and you don't want to sound like an idiot. And that's the main thing. Like, that makes it so nerve-wracking because you just don't want to be embarrassed. You just don't want to sound like you A, have not read, or B, are incompetent to be a lawyer. And we just exaggerate everything in law school. So one small little thing is like,
Oh my god, I got that question wrong. Oh my god, all my classmates think I'm an idiot. It's because I am, and my professor thinks it too. And it's because I don't belong here. And if I don't know this, how am I gonna know questions that my clients ask me or that the judge asks me? And if I don't know that, how can I be a lawyer? I'm not supposed to be here.
like, we literally think like that. Especially your first year. Like, you're just so sensitive because you're entering a new territory and you know nothing about what you're doing. You've heard the stories, you've watched the YouTube videos, you've seen the law school shows and the law shows, but when you're actually in it, you're like, wow, this is nothing like I thought it would be. It's harder, or it's more nerve-wracking, or I don't think I'm supposed to be here. You know, it's just all these thoughts, especially, like I said, especially your first year. So that's pretty much what the cold call is. And I mean, literally, being in school, well, I've been on campus for 2 years, in school for 3, but just seeing all the classroom interactions and the cold calls and just how students answer questions, and even for myself answering questions, and just the variety of responses and the way that people's personalities show through the cold call, it's just really funny. Sometimes the professor would ask you about the facts of the case while you're standing up, and then they'll have a random thought and they'll go on this long tangent talking about all kinds of stuff. And if you're in law school, you know exactly what I'm talking about, and you know what professors do it. They start talking about this and this and this, and so you're like, okay, like, should I sit down? Should I stand? By now, as a 3L, you know, just stand up until they tell you to sit down. But as a 1L, well, in some of our classes, honestly, we don't even have to stand up anymore. But as a 1L, you're just so nervous. Should I sit down? Should I stand up? Should I just stand up and just look stupid? Like, you look weird. Like, you're standing up and the professor isn't talking to you anymore. But yeah, so they know what they're doing. They know what they're doing because they'll finish their long tangent. And then they'll come back to you and say, Mrs. Mullins, so what did the court decide in this case? And they go back and they pick off where they left off. They're masterminds. They're geniuses. That's why they're law professors. So we're just, you know, standing there clueless, not knowing what's going to happen. And anyway, that's how cold calls go. And every law student has had an experience where they literally was just like, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I didn't read for today. Or at least they thought it in their mind, but they just played it off. Trust me, every law student has had that experience. So the lesson for that is read and brief your cases. Do the assigned readings that your professor gives you so that you're prepared for class 1 and so that you understand how the rule is applied in different cases. Next is take good notes. So some students write out all of their notes. Some students type their notes. I mean, literally, it's whatever works for you. I continually go back and forth. Like, I just do. I'll say, oh, I'm going to write all of my notes, and then at the end of the semester, I'm going to type them up and put them in an outline. Or I'll say, no, that doesn't make any sense. I'll just type all of my notes, and then that way I already have them there, and then I can delete what I don't need, and then that's what I can use that for my outline. I mean, honestly, you retain better when you write, yes. But nowadays, you know, we're millennials. We're trying to think what is more efficient. So it's just a matter of what works for you, how you're retaining best. I do a combination of both of them. And what I've gotten into now this year is when I'm reading cases on my own and doing homework, I'm writing my notes out. Like I'm briefing in my book. Okay. So once you get to your 3rd year, 2nd year, you know what book briefing is. Everybody knows what that is. That's kind of what you start doing after you just get in the habit of briefing. You just do it in your book instead of writing out your brief. But yeah, so when I'm doing my readings, my assigned readings, I'm book briefing. And, you know, answering the little questions that they have after the cases. And if I have any notes outside of the book briefing, I'm writing down my notes in my notebook. And then once I get into class, I'm taking notes, I'm writing them down. I just noticed like writing is so much better just because you're kind of getting your thoughts out and you're getting these things out and you're processing everything as you're writing it. And then I've been trying to type my notes in my outline after class, before class. When I'm reviewing the material, I try to, and just instead of waiting until the end of the semester, just like typing my notes on an ongoing basis. So writing them out before and after class. No, writing them out before class in preparation for class, and then typing them after class as I'm reviewing the notes that I just took. And so, and I noticed like some of my friends and classmates, like that's what they do too. Like they found it effective. Some people just type it all. Some people just write it all. Like literally it does not matter, but you just have to make sure you're doing what works for you so that you are able to process everything. And one thing, this is what I realized. We'll put this down for a second. I just had to think like, why is this difficult? Like, what is this? Like, what makes this so challenging? And I think one thing, this is just one thing. When you're reading something, like if you're reading new material or about a new subject matter, it's fresh. So you're reading it, and that's how it goes. Like they give us assigned readings. We're reading everything for the first time. You know, it's fresh. You may have some prior experience or some background in a particular area, but for the most part, it's your first time reading this material. So as you're reading it, you're trying to understand it in your own way, based on your own knowledge, based on your own experiences, based on how you understand the law. Like you're understanding it in your own way. Then you review it real quick before class and you notice things that you didn't notice the first time. And it's like, oh, like now I noticed this, and I noticed the court did this, and I noticed this is distinguished, or you learn something procedural that you didn't see the first time you read it. So you're learning that second time you review it before class. Then you get in class and your professor has what he wants to teach you, which is usually different from what you identified. Like they're gonna go over the stuff that you maybe have identified, but then they're going to say things that you did not see, and they're going to add things that you did not realize. And so you're trying to process what they're saying into what you have, and that's just adding to your understanding of the concept. While this is happening, your classmates are bringing in their outside perspectives into the same concept. So if you're learning about agency law and you're learning about different corporations and partnerships, you know, your classmates, they may have a partnership. They may have their own business. They may have worked somewhere and seen this. So when they're asking questions, they're basing it off of their experiences and bringing that into the classroom discussion. So now you have your own understanding, your enhanced understanding from your reviewing of the notes. You have your professor and what they're actually teaching you that you need to know, which is either consistent or inconsistent with what you already know. Then you have your classmates who are bringing in their own understanding, which can supplement or help what you already know. Or honestly, it could be like a distraction sometimes. Like sometimes it's just like, okay, this has nothing to do with what we're doing.
But for me, I honestly like outside perspectives, because if I understand something better in a different viewpoint or from a different perspective, it kind of helps me understand the whole thing, if that makes sense. So if we're talking about A and somebody brings up C and D, and it's unrelated but it's related, it helps me understand A better, even though like it may not be the actual rule.
So yeah, that's what I realized about law school. It's you never got it. Like you got it, but you don't got it. Because even after you do all of that and you move on to a new concept, you learn something in this new concept that reminds you of something that you learned over here, and it's like, oh, I didn't even realize this thingy, you know, until I learned this. So it's like you're continuously learning something. You know what I mean? Like you're not ever really an expert on a particular subject matter, and so you have to go throughout this semester knowing that you're not an expert on it. Like, I got it, but I haven't memorized it, or I get it, but I don't understand this part of it, or I get these things, but I don't understand the exceptions. So it's like, that's law school. You know, it's like you have to be humble, because I don't care, like, I know my classmates are so smart. You know what I mean? Like everybody has their own wealth of knowledge, but nobody can say that they're an expert in really any of the material, like, because you're constantly learning as you go. So I went on my own tangent, but what I was trying to get to when I was talking about note taking and your best way of note taking is always take notes, always take good notes, because those are what you're using for your outline. The things that your teachers are discussing in the classroom, this is for any discipline, any degree, or, you know, like whatever you're studying. What your teacher is discussing in class is what they're going to test on. And typically they try to be consistent with the bar exam. So that, I'll talk about that in a second, but they're giving you what you need to know. So the notes that you take based on what they're saying to you are the things that you need to really study and know, and they're useful for your outline, which you study for the end of the semester exam. So I know that I've said outlines several times, and I don't want to assume that people who are not in law school automatically know what I mean by outline, because, you know, when we think of outlines, we think of, oh, I need an outline for my presentation, or I need an outline for an essay that I have to write. So for law school, we do outlines as our way of taking notes. So we take our notes, but then we put it into an outline by the subject matter, so that when we go back and study it for the exam, we have like, okay, agency, this is how an agency is formed. And then you have, how can a principal be liable for the conduct of the agent? Sorry. But yeah, so we have it in like, I guess, little headings, so that way when we go back and study it, we know it's literally outlined. Like, this is the first topic, this is the second topic. Okay, I memorized this, now I need to memorize that. So pretty much everybody uses outlines. Me personally, I use outlines, but the best way that I memorize is with flashcards. So this semester, I've been doing something different. While I'm creating my outline, I've been reviewing the material by writing it down on flashcards. Because it's like, with an outline, yes, you can use a paper and like cover up the things that you haven't studied, but ultimately, it's difficult to know that you've memorized it and you know it without looking at it, unless you use a flashcard. So, I mean, like I said, it's whatever works for you. But for me, that has been effective when I've actually had to write it again on a flashcard, because it's like another hit at the material. So yeah, that's outlines. They are your everything. They're truly your everything, because at the end of the semester, when you have that big final exam, you need your outline to make sure you study all the material that you've learned over the semester. And for the most part, the main source of your grade is the exam at the end of the semester. Some classes, they have midterm exams that can be like 10% of your grade, 5%. Some classes, like my Wheels class and my public responsibility class, there are assignments throughout the semester, which I love. So you can get 10% for doing a will, 10% for doing a client engagement agreement, and then there are other stuff that we have to do too this semester. But still, the majority of our grade is going to come from our final exam at the end. So yeah, your outline is useful for your exam prep. Also, for exam preparation, after you've memorized everything on your outline, you do practice problems to make sure you retain the material. So just a moment of transparency, I've struggled on final exams from, I'll study the material, but I don't do enough practice problems. Because it's one thing to know everything front and back, but when you're actually answering questions on an exam, you have to state what the issues are. So in order to state what the issues are, you have to identify the issues in the fact patterns, you know? So learning how to do that, learning that skill, which is literally what lawyers do on a daily basis, which is why they test us in that way, that has to come with practice. It doesn't just happen. So that's why after you know the material, you have to actually do practice problems to make sure that you know how to answer the questions the way that the professors are going to ask you. And once you get to your second and third year, your professors are trying to be as consistent with the bar exam as possible. So they're literally preparing you for the big test that you take at the end of your law school career. I'm not gonna really touch on bar exams in this video, but just to let you know what it is. So you take the bar exam that is from your particular state. So like, I am probably going to take the Maryland bar exam, so I'm going to study for that particular bar, which means I'm studying Maryland law to take the Maryland bar exam to practice in the state of Maryland. Now, if I do that, I'll be able to waive into other states. So I'll be able to practice in North Carolina. It's at least like 35 to 40 other states that I'll be able to practice in, because they have a uniform bar exam where if you take that exam in that particular state, you can waive into other states. So yeah, I'm not gonna get onto the bar exam in this video because that's a whole nother beast. But yeah, I just wanted to highlight that the exams prepare you for the bar exam. Okay, so probably the most substantial skill to have as a law student preparing you to be a lawyer is this one thing: ask questions. Ask questions, always. As a lawyer, you ask questions all day. Whether you got a witness on the stand, whether you're doing depositions, whether you are talking to your other co-counsel, you're asking questions, because in order to come up with conclusions or to understand a particular thing, what do you have to do? You have to ask. You're asking your client a whole heap of questions to understand, how can I best do this estate plan for you? So in a classroom environment, it's like you might as well just start practicing asking questions. And I could probably do a lot better of this, because I always have a question in my mind, but I'm waiting for another student to ask it or for the professor to just answer it. But yeah, so for us, as law students, we try to even sound sophisticated when we ask our questions, because yeah, there's something that I don't know, but I need to let you know what I do know before I tell you what I don't know. So we're like,
I understand that a contract is formed by an offer and an acceptance, and it has to be consideration. But, you know, one question that I have is,
and they ask a question about the thing that they stated, but I don't know. It's the law school environment is like no other, because I don't know. It's just like you want to sound as smart as possible, but at the end of the day, there's a heap of things that we all don't know, and we should just accept that. But yeah, so asking questions is definitely key in law school. Just going ahead and asking your professor questions. A lot of students stay back after class and ask questions. It's only going to enhance your understanding of the material. If you go home and you still don't know something, now you have to go study it. You got to go back to the rule. You got to look in the comments. You got to figure this out. When you could have just asked the question and allowed somebody to answer it right at that moment. And then when you get home, you can move on to something else. So that's all I had to say about that. The last portion of this video is going to focus on just more personal stuff, like outside of the school context, ways to be successful as not only as a law student and not only as a lawyer, but also in any career. I think you could apply most of this to any career, any path that you decide to take. Okay, so I have to actually get to school soon. So I'm gonna hurry up and just roll off these things. These are things that are more personal to you that will help you be successful in whatever career you decide. So I talked about this in my last video with having a baby, but this applies to everybody. You have to find a balance. You need balance in your life. And what I've come to realize is having a schedule, having reminders, having to-do lists are what's gonna help you be free. The more boundaries you put in your life, the more organized you are, the more dates that you have set, the things that you know ahead of time, the things that you work on ahead of time, that's gonna help you be free. So it's not that you're going to be all uptight and life is gonna be so structured and you're not gonna be able to just live your life. That's what I thought.
I thought that having your life too planned out and structured was gonna make it too, like, unenjoyable, if that's a word. Like, I'm not gonna be able to enjoy life. Like, I'm not gonna be free if I gotta live by all these time constraints.
But by doing that, you're more free because things are submitted on time so you're not stressed. Things are started well ahead of time so you're not trying to hurry up at the end and submit it and then it's not your best work, it's not quality, it's not excellent because you tried to rush and get it done. When you're forgetting birthdays and big occasions, you're not able to make all these things because of the way that you planned out your life. That's more stressful. You're letting more people down, people that you love. And so with law school and with any career, any brand or business, having discipline is very important. To have what time you need to be doing what and to stick to that schedule as much as you can. Like, trust me guys, I change my daily schedule every week. Like, my Monday through Friday looks different every single week just because of life and things coming up and having a family and a bunch of other things going on. But by having in my phone and in my planner where I need to be, what I need to be doing, what's coming up, what's due, I'm getting back to it. I'm getting back to it. I know what's in my future, whether it's short term or long term, I know what's coming up. So you must do what works for you. As a law student, if you overdo it, you're going to burn out. If you don't take breaks, if you decide I'm just gonna work myself to death, you're going to burn out and your brain is just gonna be fried where it's not gonna be able to really retain information because you're just filling and you're not doing something else, or you don't channel it anywhere else. It's just all coming in. Literally, like, my first year of law school, and my classmates can attest to this, you literally think like,
am I gonna eat today or am I gonna study? I'm really hungry, but I need to study. I'm really tired, but I need to study. I really should spend time with such and such, but I need to study.
Like, that's your thinking in law school. Like, you eat, breathe, and sleep school. And on one hand, you do have to have a little bit of that thought process because it takes an extraordinary amount of discipline to be a law student and to thrive in law school. And by thrive, I mean pass, honey. Okay? So, yeah. But on the other hand, you have to be healthy. Like, you have to be, because if not, you're going to drive yourself insane. You have to still try to eat kind of sort of okay. Still trying to exercise when you can. Like, I'm being completely 100% honest. Like, having these things on go always is very difficult, but you have to try to find your own balance and what works for you. For me, having a family is probably the most wonderful, most blessed thing that could have ever happened to me, because it's a constant reminder every single day that there is more to this. I have a husband, I have a son, I have a family to come home to every single day, to spend time with, to love, to cuddle with. And so it's like, it's a constant reminder that this that I'm working on very hard, very disciplined, the best that I can, is not my life. It's not my life. Like, it's not everything. I have to focus on the people who will be there with or without this. And that's the main thing with any career that you choose. The people that you wake up to and go home to are the most important people in your life. They're going to be there with or without your degree, with or without your job, your career. They're going to be there. So those are the people that you have to prioritize. Everything and everybody else comes after that. Period. The last thing I'll say about balance, and guys, just remember, I'm just kind of scraping the surface of all of this stuff. I'm not giving like really detailed things about what works for me and what I do every day. I can definitely do that. I can do another video on those things, but I'm just scraping the surface. So the last thing that I'll say about balance, keep things in rotation. So if you're cooking a meal, okay, when I cook shrimp Alfredo, all right, I'm gonna put this on my Instagram. When I cook shrimp Alfredo, I am cooking things at the same time. I'm boiling the water for the noodles. I'm cooking the shrimp in the pan. I'm cooking the sauce in a different pan. All of that is happening at the same time. Now, if I spend too much time on the shrimp, the sauce is gonna overcook and it's going to burn. The cheese is gonna start sticking. If I spend too much time on the sauce, the shrimp is gonna overcook and it's going to burn. Like if I spend too much time on any of these individual things, it's gonna overcook. Once I put the noodles in the pot, if I leave them there and just focus on the sauce and the shrimp, the noodles are gonna be too done, and nobody likes too done noodles. So what I'm saying is I have to rotate. I go from the shrimp to the sauce to the noodles, the shrimp, sauce, noodles. Mind you, you usually do the noodles last, but that's another thing. So what I'm saying is I'm keeping the things that I need to do in rotation, and that's how life is. In my calendar, if you look at my phone and you look at one day, I have everything in rotation. I start the day with God, take birth control, get dressed, do all of that. Then I'm cooking or I'm studying. Then I'm going to school. And then after I get out of class, I'm reviewing for the next class. And after I get out of that class, I'm reviewing for the next class. Or I am reviewing what I just learned in the previous class. And then after my whole day, I'm picking Kamari up. And then after that, I'm coming home and I'm doing something else. So it's like, I mean, we do this naturally, but you shouldn't be spending too much time on any individual thing. Like everything has to be in rotation. Like I realize sometimes I'll spend too much time on like 2 classes and then I have to focus on my other 3 classes. Or I'll completely neglect a class for whatever reason, or I like slack off in a particular class and I'm like, no, I need to focus on this class like for a whole day. And so that's pretty much how life goes when you have a lot on your plate. You have to just do. I have King's Daughters Connect, so tomorrow we have a meeting. Then tomorrow night I need to spend more time with Dre. Then on Sunday I need to go to church and I have obligations for my church. And like that's how I balance my life, is keeping things in rotation. Not saying that I'm always on time, I'm always perfect, I always get the job done, but I do it this way so I don't go crazy. I do it this way so that nothing is neglected. Okay, so with any profession, any career, especially law school, know why you're here or know why you want to go to law school. Don't do it because you feel like it's popular, which is not. Don't do it because you feel like you're gonna make a lot of money, because I mean, yes, you do have the potential to make a lot of money, but you got to think about how much money and time and energy is going to be spent. So you have to think about the cost versus the benefit. It's a business decision. So all those things are great, but they should not be your reason for going to law school. You need to know.
I want to be a lawyer because I want to advocate change for human rights. I want to advocate change for international law and for immigrants. I want to advocate change for victims of domestic violence, or kids who are in unfortunate situations and they have to go through custody battles, or for businesses, small businesses who need to be protected in contracting and things like that. Like,
I'm not saying you need to know every type of law or like, you know, the specifics of it, but just know your why. Don't do it for the wrong reasons. Do it because of your passions, your interests. Do it because God told you, which is why I went to law school. Like, do it because of things that you know that you're good at or at least willing to learn. And that's pretty much all I have to say about that. And lastly, I'll say keep the end in mind. So you have your short-term goals. So as a law student, pass the exams. For some people, get A's on the exams. And you have your long-term goals, which is pass the bar and start your law school career. Always keep the end in mind. Don't get too caught up in, oh, I need to go to this event, I need to join this organization, I need to network, I gotta get all these jobs, all these internships. All those things are great, yes. All those things enhance and supplement your goals, yes. But they're not the priority. So remember your priorities. Remember what your goal is, your end goal. And that every single day you should be working towards that goal. Nothing comes before that, nothing is before that, nothing is over top of that. Like, basically what I'm saying is you have to stay focused and you have to be in your own lane. So I was at home for a year taking online classes. Now I'm in my 3rd year and I likely will be graduating in next December. I'm still meeting my goal. I'm still taking the bar. I'm still going to start my law school career. It's just in a different time zone. So I'm in my own lane. What such and such is doing is what she's doing. I love it. That's beautiful. What he's doing, that's great. I love that. You'll be great at that. What Jasmine's doing is what Jasmine's doing, point blank, period. All the other things can help that, can supplement that, can enhance it. But ultimately, I'm in my lane. And that's how you have to be. Like, you have to be tunnel vision. Everybody has their own life, their own aspirations, their own interests. I have my own business, okay? Like, and it's not to brag, but it's just like, I got other things that I'm doing, other things that I'm working on in addition to this. Just like many of my classmates, just like many of my professors. So it's like, it's no need to make this my entire life or to let a setback destroy me if this is just one part of me. And that's all I'll say about that. Just stay in your own lane, do your own thing, and you'll be okay, good to go. Know who has your back, keep your family first. If you don't have that career, if you don't have that school, if you don't have that degree, who's gonna be there? Those are your people. Those are your people. Those are the people that you prioritize, okay? So that's just that on that. And I hope that was able to just give somebody some tips, some help, some guidance, some advice based on my experiences, based on my law school journey. I always say, pray about every decision before you make it, big and small. Go to God, give him your heart, your plans, your to-do list, your tasks, your dreams, your visions, and ask him to instill his will in your heart. Lord, give me your desires. What do you want for me? What is your plan for me? And a lot of times it may align with what we want, but sometimes it doesn't, and we have to be okay with that. His plan is better than whatever we could ever imagine. So I thank y'all for journeying with Jazz. I have to go. I don't want to be late. I just talked about not being late, but I probably will be. So thank y'all. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to like. My Instagram name is Journey with Jazz with 3 underscores. A lot of people have been DMing me about Regent University, about law school, about just different questions based on what they want to do. And I just say keep it coming. I'm going to try to answer them in these videos, which is why I did this video. Just keep them coming and I'll try to answer them here. All right. Thanks, guys.